I will speak in English. I did work in Andhra Pradesh, undivided Andhra Pradesh for 1 year in 1999, and I really liked it. I think it was a much nicer experience to live and work than in Gujarat, which is where I'm from. When I was asked and honored to come here and speak to you, I was very happy to do so, and I'm indeed grateful to have the chance to come and visit this state one more time. I'll begin with something that I remembered while I was coming here on the plane 31 years ago. I was a young man. This was the 24th of July 1991. I was in Surat, where my family still lives. And on that day, in the afternoon, in those days the budget speeches were given in the afternoon. And in this particular year, 91, 31 years ago, the budget was delivered slightly later because we had a new government and it did not have enough time to be able to get its finances in order. And Manmohan Singh gave that very famous liberalization budget of 1991. That was 31 years ago. My task today, my job today, is to try and see, to the extent that we can. I'm not an astrologer, nor do I believe in such things, but I can look into the past. I can see where we are coming from. I can not only look 31 years back, I can look 60 years back, because this is data and numbers that the government of India has given us. And based on that, we will try and see whether we can look into the future and see where we will be, where this country will be, where our country women and country men will be in 2047. We are told by the Prime Minister that this is going to be the period of India, and by this year, 2047, which is 25 years from now, we will be in something called Amrit Kal. I wanted to talk about two things. One is, where was India in 1991 when Manmohan Singh gave that speech and we had 31 years of liberalization? Where was India and where was the rest of the world at that point? Now, I've got some data with me, and in 1990, India's per capita GDP, the per person GDP, the total output of products and services that the country does per person in US dollars was 367 per year per person. China was at $317, so we were ahead of China by $50 in 1990. Today, India is at about $2,200 per capita GDP per person. China is at more than 12,500. So the data, and this is government data, there is no dispute over this, that in 31 years of liberalization, we were at the beginning slightly ahead of China by $50, 150 or 160. Today they are 6 times ahead of us. 2,200 versus 12,500 plus. My point is that if we look at the Indian growth story, whether we consider it from the point of view of liberalization, the last 30 years, whether we look at the 2 decades of what we call Nehruvian socialism, where we look at the decade and a half that we call Indira Gandhi's license Raj, the GDP per capita does not seem to have changed that much. That the system by which we operate the economy of this country does not seem to make a difference to the life of the ordinary person in terms of how much chance they have, how much better a chance they have of escaping poverty. And this is in contrast to 3 other Asian countries. I will not look at any of the European countries at the moment. I will look at 3 countries: Japan first, South Korea, and then China. We don't have to duplicate their political system. I think that India has a good constitution, and I think that we should operate that Japan and South Korea and China have given us on the economic side. If you look at Japan first, they had roughly 30 years in which they were growing every year at double digits. 30 years. Now, to put that in perspective, India has never grown in double digits even in one single year. So they did it consistently for 30 years. From 1960 to 1970, 1970 to 1980, 1980 to 1990. Then they slowed down a bit, but then by then they had become rich. By then, today the per capita GDP of Japan is $40,000. It's about 20 times the size of India, the per capita. If you go to Japan, and I have gone there 3 times, it is like going to a European country, except it is richer than a European country, than many other European countries, more organized, more beautiful, more Asian. And they have done it not through any route that we have been told we can follow. What is the Japan model? I don't know. After Japan, South Korea, which is also the largest country, these are not small countries, they are bigger than many Indian states. It was able to achieve high growth in the 60s and 70s, but it really picked up from mid-70s onwards to the mid-90s onwards. Today, South Korea's per capita GDP is more than $30,000, more than 15 times the size of India's economy in per capita GDP terms. The last Asian nation to do this, to be able to grow really quickly over many years, and in fact more than 2 decades, is of course China. And I don't know how many of us realize that the period of liberalization, or so-called liberalization in India and China, is the same period. The Deng Xiaoping era of 79 came, but I'm saying that the real changes happened in the Chinese economy in the 90s, just like the real changes we were told in the Indian economy began to happen in the 1980s. But as I said, China was behind us in 1991, and today they are 6 times ahead of us, and we show no sign of being able to catch up. Some of the other data on GDP by decade, and this is material that I'm using for my next book, which I'm writing at the moment, and the data all comes from the government of India. So in the 60s, the average GDP growth rate for those 10 years, from 1961 to 1970, was 4%, 4.03%. From 1971 to 1980, it was 3.08%. From 1981 to 1990, 5.57%. Liberalization 1991 begins in 2000, 5.6%. Not very different from Nehru's time, not very different from Indira's time, slightly slower than Rajiv Gandhi's time. In the decade after that, 2001 to 2010, 6.7%. This is the highest we've grown in any decade in our history since 1947. And in the last 10 years, what is called New India, from 2011 to 2020, we've grown at 5.12%. So we've grown at the same rate, slightly slower than we were in the 1980s before liberalization. My broad point is, it doesn't seem to make a difference what route the government of India takes in terms of being able to modernize and develop the country. The growth rate seems to remain the same. We are not able to do consistent double-digit growth over 3 decades, like Japan did, like South Korea did, and like China has done. And it doesn't even matter which party is in power. It would be wrong for me to say it's just the BJP that is not able to deliver growth. BJP is not able to deliver growth according to the BJP's data. That if you look at the last decade, 5.12%, it's more or less the same as the rest of South Asia does. One last point here, which is that India's per capita GDP, per capita income compared to the world was about 1/5 in 1960, and it's about 1/5 now. So if you look look at the subcontinent, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, we are a drag on the world's economy because we are 1/4 of the population, but we are 1/5 in per capita GDP terms of all the economic output that the world produces. We slow the world down. The second point is that we seem to think that India is very different from Bangladesh and Pakistan. So if you look at the 2020 data, India was at roughly about $2,000 per capita, 1,933. Bangladesh was at 2,270. I don't know how many people know this, but in the last 10 years, Bangladesh per capita GDP does not seem like we will be able to catch up with them soon. They have gone in front, and there are several reasons for it which we will discuss. Pakistan is at 1,537. It's behind Bangladesh and India, not by much. Sub-Saharan Africa, the poorest part of the world, is 1,501 US dollars per person per year. I'll repeat these numbers one last time so that we understand where we stand. Japan, $40,000 per person per year. South Korea, $31,000 per person per year. China, 12,500. 12,500 is the cutoff for what is called the middle income. China is now at the edge of what is called the upper income nations. So 40,000 Japan, 31,000 Korea, 12,500 China, 2,200 Bangladesh, 1,933 India, 1,500 Pakistan, 1,500 Sub-Saharan Africa. All the poorest countries you see on television. Sub-Saharan Africa is that part of Africa which is under the Arab Belt, from Morocco to Egypt. If you remove that part, if you look at nations like Nigeria, like Somalia, that is where the subcontinent is. There is no reason for us to be ashamed of this. We are a poor country. The problem is that we don't recognize it, that we are a poor country. We believe that we have some sort of superpower, or we will achieve superpower status fairly soon. That is not going to happen. If we grow at the rate we have for the last 60 years, 60 years is a long enough time. You can tell in 60 years where it is that you're going to be in the next 25 years. We are not going to be close to where China is today. If we grow at the same rate we are growing today, we will not be where China is today in 2022, in 2047. We will be behind China by about roughly 50%. We will be at $8,800. They are today at more than 12,500. The problem is recognition. How do you solve a problem? I can solve a problem. The first step towards my solving a problem is that I have to acknowledge that I have a problem. If I don't acknowledge I have a problem, I will never solve it. In India, we do not acknowledge that we are not China, we are not Western world, we are Bangladesh, slightly behind, but let's say we are Bangladesh, we are Pakistan. We don't want to accept that. We think we are destined for something much bigger. My father, who is now in his mid-80s, 30 years before I saw that budget in 1991, would have heard Nehru in 1961, and he would have felt that India is destined to be this next great power. That was 60 years ago. At what point does a nation look at itself and say, we are not going to do what the other nations have done till we change something? What is it that we need to change? What is it that we need to do differently between now and 2047 that gives us some chance of being able to replicate what Japan did, what China did, what South Korea did? I would say that it is unusual in a country where 60% of the population, today 80 crore Indians, 800 million people, more than the population of Europe, has to queue up every month to get 5 kilos of wheat or rice and 1 kilo of dal. I think it's a good thing that the government is giving them this grain. Why does the country have so many poor people? To me, that is the question. In 2022, we will be celebrating 75 years of the independence of this country this year. If 60% of the people do not even have enough to eat, what is it that tells us about our country, and what sort of debates should we have in this kind of country? Thinking about this is not easy because this is not the subject of political debate in India. In most democracies, people talk about two things for the most part. One is the economy, the other is unemployment. That these two would dominate the kind of debate that you would have in any other democracy. How much the level of taxation is, how much money I can take home, how much growth is there, what is the level of inflation, and what are my chances of getting a job. These are the most important things. They do not have, these democracies do not have the sort of debates and the sort of focus that we have, unfortunately for us. The other side of per capita GDP is what is called the Human Development Index. That in 1990, the United Nations began to measure the progress. So there were many economists who said that just money, just per capita GDP is not a good way to look at progress. That you need to look at three other things. You need to look at what the level of health is in the average individual, in the mean one and the median one. You need to look at the level of education, health, education, and per capita. These were the three things that comprised the HDI index, the Human Development Index. They included such things as the life expectancy. If a child is born, how old is that child expected to live? When it began in 1991 at the cusp of liberalization, India, Pakistan and Bangladesh, the numbers were, for Bangladesh, life expectancy was 56. This is in 1990. In Pakistan, it was 60 years. And in India, it was 58 years. In the 32 years since, India has now gone from 58 to 66. Bangladesh is 67. Bangladesh has gone ahead of us even in life expectancy. Pakistan has remained slightly behind. So both on the measure of how much the economy produces and on the measure of how well the individual citizen does, how old is she before she dies, how many years of schooling does she receive on average, and how much money does she have. In all three measures, we have remained with the rest of South Asia and slightly behind Bangladesh in the last 30 years. But this is not the sense that we receive from the politics of our time, or from the political parties of our time, or from the media, that this is where we are. We seem to be believing that we are on the way, if we are not already become this great nation that will challenge China, that will challenge